This amazing announcement and campaign launch. I'm going to start by asking all of you to please turn off your phones, sound on your phones, and we're going to begin this event with a ceremony offered by our elder, Kat Krieger. And so I'm going to welcome Kat to the podium, and I'm just going to say a few words about Kat. Kat Krieger is an Indigenous elder, traditional teacher, and knowledge keeper. He is from the Cayuga Nation, Turtle Clan, as well as having German and English ancestry. Kat was taught traditional ceremonies, teachings, circles, counseling, healing, and plant medicines, Indigenous philosophies, and pedagogies by an Anishinaabe elder, and uses these gifts to help all people. Kat has worked as an elder and advisor in many Indigenous agencies, government ministries, nonprofit organizations, and corporations. He is retired from the University of Toronto, where he last held the position of Indigenous advisor within the Offices of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at the Mississauga campus. Kat continues to work towards providing Indigenous inclusion and support to all students, their teachers, and staff at several secondary schools in the Toronto area. He remains active as a guest speaker, lecturer, and consultant in curriculum development, cultural competency, and Indigenous perspectives of wellness. Elder Krieger, thank you so much for being with us. I would like to offer this tobacco as an expression of our gratitude for your wisdom, for being with us here today to help us promote gender equality, to help us redress historical discrimination and violence against women and girls, including Indigenous women and girls, and help us think about the role that men and boys can play in promoting healthy masculinities, gender equality, and ending gender-based violence. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for joining us today. Over to you.
I too, Elder Kat, from the bottom of our heart, offer this tobacco to you for starting us off in a good way. Thank you for your empathy. Thank you for being here today. We are forever grateful.
Good.
Okay.
So I'm going to start off in a traditional way with a smudge. I'll explain it. Actually, it's kind of interesting to be starting a fire in a building this big. And I'm hoping the fire alarms are going to cooperate. We never needed fire alarms. We usually knew when there was a fire burning because we lit it. So I'm going to let that burn just so the smoke can go out through the room and kind of bring us all together of one mind. And cough a bit. So, Wayne Bojo, Chansi, Sego, Makwa Gish Gadendish Nakaji Kandodam, Kega, Miwa, German English, and Dao. Be Majada, Jiwabi Da Ban Genege Gomi Nage Go Ba. So, Migwich, Scobini Quay, Miwa Manado Gises. Miwa Manado Nokmas and Miwa Gichigumi Midewa Bo Miwi Shagana Shisha Bangi. So the last couple words means I'll speak English because this is the language that we're sharing today. This is the language that we're speaking to each other in. And this is the way we'll be able to share those gifts of the words that you're about to hear. And they are gifts, by the way. Words come from the heart. And certainly in this setting, in this place and space and time that we're in, listening with our hearts is very critical as well. That smudge is white buffalo sage, and that smoke that comes up from it, there's that cleansing effect, that grounding effect, that calming effect. And there's that waving of the hands, taking some over our body, our minds, our hearts. We breathe a little bit in. And I like to think when we breathe in, some of that air goes past our heart, and it comes back out past our heart and brings our words with us. And that's the type of words we're going to hear from everybody today, from the heart. The other words were Anishinaabe-Moan, the Ojibwe language. I don't speak that language very well, but out of respect for my traditional teacher, who was Ojibwe, I always like to start off that way and remind myself of where our wisdom comes from, where our knowledge comes from. The words do talk about the sun coming up. And I think it's important, the teaching that brings, that concept of gratitude for being there watching the sun rise. But it also reminds us of something very, very simple, kind of our original instructions as humans. We are to walk through life very similar to the sun, bring warmth, bring light, and bring life to everything around us as we walk through this world that we live in. And that's very simple. It also talks about the grandmother moon and that silver light that she does that symbiotic dance with the sun, softens that light, turns it silver, and shines it on the earth. And the moon always has the same face towards earth, so there's a metaphor there. And I love speaking in metaphors, but the metaphor there is about always watching over us, always there, always the face towards us, so we can see the face of that one we're speaking with or listening to. The words go a little further and talk about the big water to the south of us, that beautiful, beautiful lake, and how water is essential for life. That water will travel, that water will travel and come up and touch us. And that we should be grateful when that happens, whether it's rain or snow or sleet or any of those things. That water is reminding us that water is essential for life. And in some of the old teachings, it talks about something that's very important for what we're doing today. Our first journey into this world is with water. So all of us here, every single person walking, each of us on this planet even, in a sense, we owe our physical construct, this vessel that we walk in, this vessel is the only thing I have to walk, talk, speak, be listened to touch, to love, to be loved. Pray from, if you would. This is that vessel that I've been given. And that creation of this physical vessel started, which seemed to be over a 9-month period in the womb of a woman. Each and every one of us owes our physical existence here to a woman. And I think that's really important. And coming from a Haudenosaunee culture, part of my word said, I am Cayugan. I am from the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois Confederacy of the Six Nations. And I can trace my grandma, my dad, my grandma, my great-grandma, even further back on that family line to that. So the Haudenosaunee people is mostly a matrilineal society. And that's interesting. I was talking earlier with someone. The idea of the arrival of the Europeans when they met what was a matrilineal culture, as opposed to the patrilineal, patriarchal culture that was Europe, and to some degree still is, I guess. It must have been a clash of concepts. The idea of complete and total respect for the ones that brought us into this world. We spent 9 months into the womb. We received gifts while we were spending those 9 months there. We say one of the gifts we receive is music. That's where we got it. We get it from our mother. We spend 9 months listening to the heartbeat of our mother. Thump, thump, thump. Unless she gets a bit excited, then it's thump, 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 thump. I can't speak to that. But we get that beat, that music. Music's so essential in our life. We spend that time in that water. We're protected. We're warm. We're nourished. All the things that are essential. To this day, still people refer to Mother Earth nourishing and providing absolutely everything we need. The foundations of respect are within that philosophy and that ideal. The way we should walk through life, the way that we should look at one another, the way we should look at the ones that brought us into this world. That thump, thump is similar to the drums we use, the single stick we use to beat the drums, that heartbeat drum, the big powwow drums. You'll never see somebody with 2 drumsticks because they are adding their heartbeat to the heartbeat and the concepts and the knowledge they've already been given. That's really beautiful, actually. And when we walk through this world as humans, as two-leggeds, we have something that we don't see among the other animals. We've been given this idea, this concept, this gift of choice. We can choose how to act, how to walk, how to talk. And when it comes down to choice, what is our choice in walking and being? And what philosophy, our own individual philosophies, our own ways of believing and walking, what do we base that on? Our choices and how we act to one another. It's interesting that as humans, we're also gifted with the ability to make a mistake. I don't know how many people spend much time in the animal world, but in that world, if you make a mistake, it can be terminal. You don't see deer making the same mistake with the wolves. You don't see the other animals making the mistakes that would, in some cases, be difficult to recover from. We as humans, we can do the same thing wrong over and over and over. But at some point, we have to face the idea of maybe that was wrong. Maybe we need to change how we look, how we walk, how we talk, how we do things, how we interact with others to make everything flow like that original water that we flowed into this world on. And that's a real beautiful thing. The thing that supports us throughout life, that is a requirement for existence for all humans, is what brought us into this world. And we recognize it will follow a path. It will always return to us. And when it does travel from that lake and falls on us as rain, that is a reminder. We should look up at that point and say, where did I come from? I remember. I remember that heartbeat, that beat that sets us in line with how we walk through life. There is rhythm to what we do in this world. And when that rhythm is distorted, the music isn't quite as nice. So that music that we walk with is essential too. There's a whole bunch of metaphors in here. There's a whole bunch of ways of looking at these things. But I think when we gather together, when we light this smudge, when we talk about the sun coming up, and the idea of walking through life, that bringing light, bringing warmth, bringing light to everything around us, that is an essential first mindset. And some of you will recognize this in your own belief systems. There's similar concepts within there. I once condensed it all in a theology lecture and said, all the religions are the same. They just say, be nice. It's really simple. If you haven't got that out of your belief system yet, take a look. It's there. Be nice. Be nice to one another. Walk in respect. Respect the ones that brought you into this world. That's so important. I was brought up in a family where there was a great deal of respect for my mom. We even had a huge dog, and even that dog listened to every word she said and did exactly what she told it. So there's always these little things all around us. This continuity of life that we walk in is essential. If we're diverting from that, then there's a problem. And I think with today's world, I like to think we're getting better. Does anybody agree with that? It's gotten better? And I think gatherings like this, where our voices will go out, and those voices, by the way, are the way we share gifts. I said the air comes in, we breathe, it comes back out past our heart, and it brings the words that we're about to speak or about to listen to. We think of gifts as something that's wrapped beautifully, that somebody took time to select, and they want to present it to us in a good way. And they've devoted that time since they did that first journey into this world on that water, collecting all the knowledge that they have to bring it here, in this case today, just so they can share it with you. So I welcome you to this gathering, to this place. I recognize, too, the very land that we're standing on, Mother Earth, in this area under the stewardship of the Mississaugas of the Credit. But also we recognize all the peoples that have walked this land. Since the ice walls moved back 13,000 years ago, we have physically walked on and cared for this land. And that same relationship from person to Mother Earth, from person to actual mother, that is represented there as well in the way that we take care of the land, that we should. And I say we as a collective term, not just myself or my ancestors, but that way we gather together and take care of everything around us. And as we walk down that path, we are setting an example for the ones following behind us. We are showing the little ones, and we all have little ones or siblings or maybe nephews or nieces. They're watching everything that we do. We are teaching them. And for me, when I think about it, little ones are they're not born violent. They're not born racist. They're not born bigoted. Someone has to teach them that. And it is one of my huge pet peeves that who is teaching this to our little ones? Let's make the teachings that we carry, that we present, that we foster, that we hold true and dear to our hearts, let's make those the teachings that everyone carries and shares. So I thank you for listening to me. Miigwech.
Thank you, Elder Cadcrager, for those beautiful words. They meant quite a lot to me, and thank you for being here with us today. My name's Mona Mitchell. I'm the board chair of White Ribbon, and I'm very pleased to be here today. I want to welcome everyone for attending this event. It's great to see so many faces out there. And I'll have the pleasure of introducing Marcy Ian. Thank you, Minister Ian, Women, Gender, and Equality Canada, for supporting White Ribbon and our work that we do each and every day. Marcy Ian is a devoted mother, award-winning journalist, author, member of Parliament, and federal cabinet minister who has dedicated her life to providing a voice for those who need it most. Born in St. Jamestown and raised in Toronto, where she lives with her children Blaze and Dash, I love those names, Marcy has been firsthand the opportunities and challenges our city faces. Marcy is a passionate advocate for vulnerable communities in Canada and around the world. Today, she serves as the Minister for Women and Gender Equality and Youth and is a proud voice in the House of Commons as the representative for her constituents in Toronto Centre. Marcy continues to fight for inclusion, equality, and ensuring everyone in Toronto Centre and across Canada has a fair chance at success. Umberto asked me to share why White Ribbon is so important to me. As an immigrant to Canada over 50 years ago, my father left everything behind and came to this great country. And he served as such an amazing role model, not only for myself, but for my brothers who continue to be great fathers today. And I thank him each day for, taking that risk and bringing us here for a better life. And for that, I will so ever be grateful, because he taught me that as a young woman and even growing up, that there was nothing that I couldn't accomplish. So he passed away 6 years ago, and I think of him each and every day, and especially in the work that White Ribbon does. Minister, thank you for your leadership and your support, and I give you the floor. Welcome.
Mona, thank you so much for your story. I was thinking, where did your dad come from? What are your roots?
From Baghdad, Iraq.
Oh my,
Yeah.
listen, I was listening to your story and thinking about my own and getting a bit emotional, because my parents left Trinidad and Tobago to give my sister and I a better life here, and ended up in St. Jamestown, which of course is where I'm born. I'm so proud to serve now. But thank you for sharing your story. And Elder Cat, oh gosh, I wish I had a pen, because I just wanted to write down all the things that I will be quoting you about later. The whole idea about the sun, and that we're meant to provide light and warmth and foster growth, is powerful, friend. That is so powerful. So thank you. Thank you very much. I can't tell you how honored I am to be with you here today. We are gathered on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Joining me today, and I'm so happy to actually be seeing them in person, because we've had several meetings virtually, are the incredible, incredible members of White Ribbon. You're just amazing. White Ribbon fait partie du plus grand mouvement mondial d'hommes et des garçons qui s'efforcent de mettre fin à la violence contre les femmes et les filles, de promouvoir l'égalité des sexes, des relations saines et une nouvelle vision de la masculinité. This organization embodies the importance of not only creating awareness of gender-based violence with women and girls, but the important work of engaging men and boys as allies to understand and take action. It's really important, the action part, take action against it, which is why I am more than pleased to announce, because not all announcements are great, I have to tell you. Not all places, I have to be places sometimes, but I really want to be here. The announcement today that Women and Gender Equality Canada is providing $599,774 in funding to support White Ribbon's new project. It's called Calling Men In. Calling Men In as allies for gender equality, engaging men and boys by utilizing GBA+. Can I please focus on the calling men in part? So important. This project is an important piece of the prevention work that absolutely has to happen to see an end to gender-based violence. It's also really timely because, of course, we are just a few days into the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And these 16 days are a call to action for Canadians to do their part, a big part, to prevent and eliminate all types of gender-based violence through action and through education. Le gouvernement du Canada fait sa part pour sensibiliser les gens. Nous avons récemment lancé une campagne nationale de sensibilisation à la violence fondée sur le sexe intitulée « Ce n'est pas juste », en partenariat avec des organisations en service de genre dont White Ribbon. This campaign speaks to Canadian youth, and it serves to empower them in identifying and challenging not just views, but also actions that contribute to gender-based violence. So it's not just, the campaign means, it's not just flirting. It's not just, that word you used. It's not just a pat. It's not just. It's so much more. I want to thank sincerely Umberto and your team at White Ribbon for developing projects that challenge the norms and attitudes of Canadians to move forward together towards a better and a brighter Canada. Je suis convaincue qu'un Canada seul est équitable pour tous les résidents et à portée de main. Nous allons et nous devons veiller à ce que notre pays continue de progresser dans ses efforts pour mettre fin à la violence fondée sur le sexe. And I believe that. I'm confident that a safe Canada, an equitable Canada for all residents is within reach. As Elder Kat said, it has gotten better. We have moved the needle. But that doesn't mean there isn't a lot more to do, and there is. But we have moved the needle. Thank you so very much. Again, I am beyond pleased to be here. Thank you.
Oh, hi. How's everyone doing? Great. Good. Beautiful. Thank you so much for the introductions and for having me here today. Just a quick shout out is just that, I come from Treaty 1 territory, and so it's just, it's a huge honor to be here today and to visit with all of you, so thank you. White Ribbon's mission has always really meant so much to me. As a man, as a son, as a brother, now as a father, and I'm really excited to talk about that today and share those experiences with you folks. So I knew all along, which we're going to be viewing today, really uses the power of video to explore how many men are actually well aware of gender inequalities and inequities, but sometimes it really goes unnoticed until they have a daughter and that comes to light. And so for me, it's having a daughter was the hardest thing I've ever gone through, so the hardest thing I still go through, but definitely the greatest thing I've ever gone through as well. It's one of those mixes. And just a shout out to this tattoo specifically. This is for my daughter. It says Aurora on it, and that's her name. But that's what it symbolizes, is that it's the hardest thing I've ever been through, but the best thing I've ever been through. And she's just such a gift, and why it was difficult is just that it really challenged my own ingrained views and ideas on masculinity and what it means to be a man, and having this wonderful human grow up in this world, and what that means. So yeah, so it brings up a lot of emotions just thinking about it, and so I also agree with, and I thank you, Elder Kat, for mentioning just the piece about our little ones watching everything that we do, because they are sponges, for sure. And, I think I haven't been the perfect dad, and I haven't been the perfect, partner. And what I mean by that is that all these things that kind of come to light because now that you have this little person that you're in charge of, it really brings things to light, and so sometimes emotions get carried away, and I want to check those things, and I want to make sure that for my daughter, she grows up feeling safe and knows what respect is and knows boundaries and has that solid emotional regulation and has a better idea of what masculinity should be. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that, but I think that's basically it. But thanks so much. Y'all are great. Thanks for being here.
The announcement portion of this event has now concluded. We will open the floor to media for questions. Please say your name, your outlet, and if you would like follow-up, you can stay to the end of the event. I'm going to assume there are no questions. We will pass it to Humberto from our women. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Minister Yen, for your leadership, for your support, for believing in our work, and for being great partners and allies with us. Thank you. Thank you, Taylor, for being a great role model and sharing with us what it means to be a dad and the changes that that did for you. I have the honor of introducing our newest campaign, I Knew All Along. I Knew All Along captures a father's anxieties around raising his first daughter, told through a reflection of how he has treated girls and women in the past. We think this is such a powerful tool and message. At White Ribbon, we believe it is incredibly important to confront harmful attitudes and behaviors and encourage accountability in order to create change. It's so important to do that. The film was designed to help men acknowledge unhealthy masculinities today and encourage them to break the cycles by being part of the solution to systemic gender-based inequality. As part of this campaign, we commissioned a study that explores the concerns parents may experience after having a daughter. The data revealed that 66% of dads with daughters believe that having a daughter made them more concerned about the challenges that women often face in society. 66%. It also showed that 70% of those who don't have a daughter believe that if they had one, it would make them more aware or concerned about the challenges that women face. Displays of unhealthy masculinity such as violence, misogyny, and discrimination are learned behaviors, as we heard from Elder Kat, absolutely. These behaviors are not something that men and boys are inherently born with. Our mission with I Knew All Along is to highlight the experiences many people in our communities face and encourage male-identified individuals to become more conscious of and accountable for their actions. We hope every man and boy will be able to relate to the father's character in this PSA in some sense. We also hope that after seeing this video, men will feel encouraged to act now, regardless of whether they are fathers, brothers, sons, or friends, to be good role models for gender equity. We're so grateful to be able to take these types of conversations into our communities every day. With the work we do, it truly would not be possible without funding and support like this. So thank you again, Minister, and thank you, Wage, for believing in our work. And I would like to also say thank you to our amazing partners at Ben Simon Barn and Narrative and everyone who's been involved in creating this powerful PSA and who's helping us use this beautiful space today to launch this campaign. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You've been wonderful partners, and we love working with you. Thank you for joining us and helping us change the world. So without further ado, let's officially unveil our newest campaign, I Knew All Along.
My little girl. From the moment we met, everything changed. I've never felt so much love. And so much fear. Fear for you to grow up. To meet certain people.
Hey! Hello!
To hold your own.
Asking you just for your number.
Where are you going?
Come on, it's not safe out here.
I didn't know what could happen to you.
I didn't get your name.
But looking back at my life and the things that I've done,
No, absolutely not! Stop!
I did know. I knew all along.
Just fixing my mic here. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again. My name is David Garzon. I use he and him pronouns. I am the Senior Manager for Digital and Corporate Engagement here at White Ribbon. I want to first thank everyone here at the front with me for joining us today, for your valuable work in creating a better world for women, girls, the 2LGBTQ+ community, and everyone. I also want to thank all of our audience here for being such great supporters, great allies to our work. It means a lot to see you here. For folks joining us online, thank you for tuning in. This means a lot to our organization and the work that we do. We thought that it would be really great to end this last segment of our event with some conversations, some transformative dialogue. After all, that's the work that we do. The funding that was announced today allows us to bring folks from diverse communities, from different ages, of all genders, to engage with us through our workshops, through our programs, in meaningful conversations that bring change, bring transformation, echoing what has been said already on being role models. I think we cannot think of our role as models to folks who are younger in our lives, but also people who just participate in the same spaces as we at our workplaces, at our schools, and all around us, right? So please think about this throughout this conversation. Our goal here is to share some lived experiences, some of our own points of view on gender equity and model transformation. This is all about just becoming better and embracing change and imagining a future where gender-based violence is no longer an issue, right? So I'm going to start by first also acknowledging who is joining us today in this sort of informal dialogue panel event. Of course, Minister Marcy Ian, thank you for being here with us. Elder Kat Krieger, thank you for joining us. Your words meant a lot to all of us. Our Executive Director at White Ribbon, Humberto, our Bilingual Community Engagement Manager, Taylor Dimitrov, who flew this morning to join us this morning and who is also a recent father to Aurora. Thank you for sharing your own lived experiences as a father. And of course, some of the youth who have been participating and being part of our activities for months, perhaps even over a year, who are doing amazing advocacy work with White Ribbon, but also beyond that in their own schools and communities. So we have Aiden Lynch joining us here today, Aidan Kwan, and Hania Durrani. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to get us started. I have some questions that I've prepared for us to just chat a bit about allyship, gender equity. We have some limited time today, so I'll be asking some questions just directly at some of you. Some of these questions will be open to all of you, and I hope that this just leads to dialogue, just not within this space, but beyond. I want all of you to just go home, talk about this event, our PSA, and engage your loved ones, your communities in conversations on gender-based violence prevention and transformation. So I'm going to start, I'm not sure if this is a surprise, I think it is. I'm going to start with youth in our audience. I want to ask a question about the future and help us imagine what's next and what's the future that we can build together. So what future do you wish for women, girls, trans, and gender diverse people? Whoever wants to start, go for it.
Yeah, so I can start us off. So from my perspective and from what this PSA stands, I believe that for our future to be equitable, there has to be some sort of inclusivity for victims of the process, for girls growing up. A lot of people, especially like from specialized communities, don't know what boundaries means. They don't have that education that Western world often gives out to the other people. So accessing that information, reducing those barriers, putting in more support in places for people like those to basically support them the best that they can. It's to be able for them to thrive in this world is what an equitable future looks like to me.
Thank you, Hania.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think for me, I'd like to see a future where somebody's assigned sex or gender at birth has no impact on how they're treated or the expectations placed on them. And I think that sounds like a big ask, but I don't think it actually is. And I think a lot of that starts with interrogating our own subconscious biases too, because it's not always conscious, the way that we treat people based on how they look or how they present. And so that would be the future that I hope for, and I think it begins with work like this, and it also begins with naming the systems that enable that kind of behavior and kind of stopping it, at its root.
Awesome. Thank you, Aiden.
I totally agree, and I'd also like to add on, I'd like to see a future with open dialogue. And what I mean by that is that we have to be comfortable with having these conversations about difficult topics, because that's the only way we're going to eradicate the stigma around it. So if we begin events like this where we talk about important issues, that's the key, that's the next step. We have to remove the stigma around it, and we have to become comfortable with talking about things, because that's the only way where we're going to come to the solutions that we need.
100%. Thank you so much, folks. That's really great. My next question is for Minister Ian. What does allyship mean to you?
A couple of things. Allyship means walking beside and supporting, yes. But allyship sometimes means taking a lead. And I want to illustrate that point, okay? So I'm looking at this from an intersectional lens. If there are allies in a room, say a corporate meeting, and those allies are able to support and lift up somebody that maybe is racialized, indigenous, a member of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, someone with disability, whatever it is, those allies are able to support that person, support maybe a project that they're bringing to the table, stand up and say, this is a great idea. Because sometimes people aren't strong enough to do it themselves. And that's where allyship comes in, to pick said person up, support them, but at the same time stand beside. So there's leadership there, but there's also a very much, I stand with you there.
That's excellent. Thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing that. It's very inspiring, and I think all of us can think of ways in which somebody else has been an ally to us, and also ways in which we can be allies to others, right?
Absolutely.
So thanks
Oh,
a lot
can I add
for
one
that.
more thing quickly?
Yeah,
Because I just thought
absolutely.
of something I think it's important.
Yeah.
Because this happened to me a lot. And that is, allies should never add more stress to somebody that does not enjoy the same things that they do. And when I say that, I've been in many rooms, especially in my former career, where I've been asked, how do we Marcy, tell us how we become better allies. That is work that I should never be asked to do. Anybody that looks like me, anybody that's racialized, indigenous, to us, should never be asked to show an ally what needs to be done. Because empathy and kindness comes from the heart. I do believe that people can find knowledge, and there are a lot of people that are walking around with a lot of trauma, and they don't need one more thing except good allies that don't ask for too much, but do a lot more.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for that. And I think that from a men's perspective, that's why we're here for, right? At White Ribbon, and we want to answer the questions from male identifying individuals who are our allies, and we are here to support them. We want to create resources for them so that they can do the knowledge themselves and take that accountability in their own hands. Thanks a lot. My next question is for Elder Kat Krieger. We're going to continue talking about allyship, and if you could please tell us, how can we stand in allyship with Indigenous women, girls, and the two LGBTQ plus people from Indigenous backgrounds?
Sorry, again?
Yeah, absolutely. So how can we stand in allyship with Indigenous women, girls, and two LGBTQ plus people?
After work. So it's such a broad question, like how can we? That we part makes it very complicated because it speaks about everybody in the room or in the province or on the planet, actually. And I think there's almost a fundamental requirement for education to be a component of this. We do have education institutions, I'm pretty sure of that, right? I think we call them universities, schools, et cetera. And sometimes we see these ideas of the education components that you're talking about being peripheral. In some places it used to be a club in high school that was focused on that, or maybe a tiny bit of health and wellness within the physical phys ed or something. But I think it needs to be, that word mandatory pops up, and I know that raises some fur in some people, but the idea of why isn't this included in everything that we do, from our well-being, from our physical, from our the concepts of mathematics, science, STEM, etc. Why isn't this part of absolutely everything that is taught in school? Why are not there examples throughout? For instance, I'm often asked to conceive or come up with an indigenous component to something, bioscience. It's like, let's have an indigenous component to that. And yes, we can do that, and yes, I've done that. But why isn't this part of each and everything that we do? So that inclusion concept is part of everything that we're taught. From when we're little ones, as one of my friends said once, since before I was born, I've been listening to the teachings. I thought that's a good start. That means mommy and daddy carry those as well, or mommy or daddy and daddy carry those concepts as well. So it's almost like saying we need to not so much go back in time, but in the future make coming back in time the root of where things began to happen. Things are beginning to happen here, and that's amazing. So it sounds like a promotion for the idea of let's change the concept of where we're taught, because somebody's teaching our little ones how to be. That is seriously a pet peeve of mine. It was interesting when I met Taylor, because I went, oh, my middle name is Taylor as well. So is my son's name. I can remember him coming home from school one day and he said something to the effect of, somebody gave me a hard time today because I have a girl's name. I was like, oh, so what did you say? He goes, well, I asked him what's wrong with having a name that I can share with girls. And I thought, awesome, awesome. Not I fought back or I protested or I cried. It was just that question right away was, why is that a problem? And it's, why is there ownership in a particular way of addressing someone? And how can we share that? Sorry, I get off topic sometimes.
No worries. That's great. Thank you so much. Education is so important, eh? And we, for so long, have put aside all of these important topics on violence prevention, community building, just respect, and have prioritized other things, right? I'm sure many of us can remember sitting at a chemistry class in high school and just, perhaps not like the information not resonating as much with us, and perhaps even wishing that there was further education to our colleagues, our peers, on these issues, on equity, on decolonization, on respect and awareness. So thanks a lot for that. I think education is key. To parents in the group, and perhaps we can start with Taylor right here. Did becoming a parent change your vision of gender equity, and how?
Great question. He's hitting the hard ones, right? I love it. No, of course. Like, I think, these discussions happen at home very often, for sure. My partner also works in the preventing gender-based violence work that we do. So it's very cool that, like, we have this home kind of culture where we can talk about these things, for sure. And also, like, sidebar, huge shout out to her, because she's, taking care of little Ro right now while I'm here doing this. So, like, huge kudos. If you're watching, thanks, Kitty. But absolutely. But yeah, but for sure, I think it's, it's once again one of those things that, like, you can talk about it and you can discuss certain concepts and things. But once this little person's in your arms, it really changes. It becomes more real, and it really hits you a lot harder, and it makes you think about, situations that you've been involved with personally, like in your life, and then also how you can move forward and do things in a better way too. So, absolutely.
Awesome. Other parents, yes, go for it.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, absolutely. Becoming a dad really accentuated for me the importance of role modeling healthy relationships and gender equality. I became a dad through adoption. I adopted three boys, three siblings who lost their own biological family to family violence. And so it became even more important for me to think about the role that I need to play, the role that many dads need to play in breaking that cycle of violence, because so many men end up using violence in their adult life because of their own experiences in childhood with experiencing violence at home. So it's important for all of us, dads, to think about what is the role that we can play in breaking that cycle, not just at an individual level, but at a community and systemic level as well. What can we do to make sure that the new generations of young people are raised and grow up with really good examples of healthy relationships, equal relationships, gender equality at home, in the community, in our systems, in our institutions. It's really important for us to keep that in mind. And it certainly, for me, it just awakened my own interest in this issue, my own passion and commitment to a much greater level. But I know that for many men who become fathers, that they need to think about that too. What can they do to break this cycle of violence, to think back to their earlier days and whether they've contributed towards the solution or whether they've been part of the problem. And then think about what is it that they can do to demonstrate greater accountability, to make amends for their past mistakes and errors and use of violence and harassment, and how can they move forwards being a great, strong ally and role model for the young people in their lives, for the young people in the community, for other men out there in the community, in sports, in our institutions and workplaces.
Thank you, Humberto. Any other parent wants to share their thoughts?
Sure.
Awesome.
Oh, I don't even need this. I can just use this.
Oh, yeah, you have.
Forgot. Oh, boy, this is a big question. I have an 18-year-old girl, and her name is Blaze. And when Blaze was born, she very much joined the sisterhood that our family was, because I have a sister, my sister has 3 girls, and then we had Blaze. And so she has always known her place in this world and hasn't been shy about it. And she calls things as she sees them. So when it comes to gender-based violence, when it comes to talking about her place and the place of women and young women, she uses her pen well. She uses her voice well. And she's a strong young woman who has a mom and an aunt and cousins that she can lean on. But then came Dash. Dash, my 11-year-old boy, is the only boy in our family, apart from my dad and his dad. And so it was very different. I was full of emotion when I learned I was even pregnant with him, because I thought, a boy and a black boy, this is going to be tough. There are conversations that we are going to have that I frankly didn't have to have with my girl or with my nieces. And I grappled with that. So Dash lives up to his name in every way, does everything real fast. But he also, if there's anybody, well, I would say the most important person in his life is his sister. So he's got Blaze, who teaches him well. He knows that it's okay to show emotion. In fact, it's the only way he needs to be. It's okay to cry. It's okay to speak your truth and share. He knows what it means to be masculine or not. And so I think so far so good, but it is a constant worry because, Elder, as you said, we model for our kids. We model for and they are watching, and they are indeed sponges. Taylor, they are. So just making sure that we get it right, but also making sure that he knows how to stand when he needs to and be there for friends who don't feel that they can speak, that they can take up space, and that it's okay to be sad, to cry, and that masculinity has nothing to do with that.
Wonderful. Thank you. As you were speaking, you made me think a lot about my own family because I grew up in as the only son in a family that was led by women. And I had a sister that was older than me, and she was like my role model, right? I wasn't looking up to other men in my life, friends or anything like that. I just wanted to be like my sister because she was so awesome, right? And it's so good to hear of a similar experience, and that Dash has someone to really admire and have as a role model to navigate such a complex world full of unhealthy expectations at time, right? Thanks a lot for sharing. All right. We might be running out of time. I am not sure. I haven't received the sign, but yeah, okay, yes. So I'm not wearing my glasses, so I had to just like this. Sorry about that. I'm going to finish our conversation with one last question for all of you. And perhaps after you're done, maybe we can hear a few words from the audience if you folks are comfortable with. So in one or two words, and I'm right now, I'm just going to ask you to just think, imagine, dream. What does the future of masculinity look like? What is the future of masculinity in this world? One or two words. All right. Maybe we can start on that corner. So,
one or two words. Authentic. Authentic self.
Wonderful.
Great empathy and compassion.
Amazing.
First thought that came to my mind was evolving.
Evolving.
Needs to evolve a little bit.
Thank you.
Honesty. Honesty is the word, and empathy as well. Umberto.
I don't mean to take up too much time, but I just want to quickly explain my choice. I would say strength. And I think that's the traditional way of defining masculinity is strength. But I think why this is different for the future is we need to change how we define strength. And Taylor touched on it briefly, I believe. And as well with the authenticity down the line is that strength and, showing your emotion is not weakness. Exactly. And I think I heard this in one of White Ribbon's campaigns, and it really resonated with me, is vulnerability is strength, right? And that's why I think strength is the future of masculinity, but it's just we need to redefine or rethink how we define it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, because that also kind of explains my word choice, which is the first word that came to mind was also honesty, kind of echoing what Minister Ian and Taylor said around authenticity. It's just, I think, it's honest.
Yeah, sorry. So based on what Aiden said, I would say the new masculinity is critical. It's full of critical thinking. It's independent. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. And I know we were not expecting this, but if the audience wants to shout one or two words that you imagine defining masculinity in the future, anyone? To shout? Sorry? Inclusive. I heard something here? Humility. Sensitive. Amazing. Openness to listen. Openness to listening. Conscious. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So this is the end of our event. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This has been a wonderful experience. I hope you're taking a lot of knowledge and you're driven to bring these conversations to your own life just forever. So thank you. Thank you. For sure, yeah. So we're doing a group picture. Should we get closer together, just here? Yeah, let's do it. Let's just stand up from the chairs. I think, okay, my mic is off, great.
Wonderful.